This is WOMM-LP operating out of Burlington, Vermont, 105.9 The Radiator. Good evening, it's The Rocket Shop. I'm your host, Tom Proctor, and with me tonight is Sam Kuhns. Hello, how's it going?
It's pretty good, how are you?
Good. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
You did, I'm impressed.
Excellent. I feel like it's up for interpretation. Well, we do like kicking it off with a song, so what have you got to start us off with?
Well, being a Vermont musician, I figured I'd start off with a song called Maine.
So take it away.
Don't you worry about me, baby, 'cause I'll be doing just fine. I just need a little bit of space and a whole lot of There's an old dirt road that winds its way through the pine tree.
All right, Sam Kuhns kicking us off there with Maine. Well, apart from the obvious, what's that one about?
Driving recklessly, man. My family has a cabin in Maine, and there's the New England Forest Rally visits the road that it's on.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're talking like, Subarus that have been stripped down and rebuilt, going anywhere in between 50 on some of the slower turns and 100 on some of the straightaways, 100 plus. And I think I've gone to every single one that they've had for the last 17 years.
Huh. You ever driven the course yourself?
In my dreams, all the time. All the time in my dreams. Never really. I've driven the road in my 80 horsepower 4-cylinder station wagon as if it was a rally car, but I've never actually competed in the race.
I was going to say, not quite hitting the same speeds then, no.
Again, in my dreams, every turn.
This is off topic of music, but I feel like rally car driving is something that's fairly popular in Europe. and it's not something that I've seen or heard too much of in America. And so, is it just because Maine is quite a European community, or is it because it's a particularly good rally car area? Why in this corner of the world is rally car racing so popular?
It has a good Maine and New Hampshire have a good number of like class 4 roads that are ideal for it. Vermont doesn't have as many, and it's funny. Subaru of America is based in Vermont, but there's no rally races that happen in Vermont. At least that was the update the last time I checked on it. But and it's not it's gotten way bigger over the last like 5-10 years. When I was a kid and we'd be sharing the course with other people that had cabins in the area or knew about it, and now it's like they bus people in, and it's definitely taken off over the last decade or so.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, when I first came over to here many years ago, it was really interesting to see so many Subarus, which I've always associated with rally car drivers and like boy racers, and not the kind of vibe for Subaru at all up in Vermont. It's very much. Yeah.
I mean, I would beg to differ. I think the daily commute for a lot of Vermonters looks very similar to some of those rally races.
True.
You've got varying conditions, hills, turns.
Right. Sleet on the road, hairpins. So yeah, let's get back to the music. So Sam, tell us a little bit about yourself, your musical history. Have you always lived in Vermont? How long have you been playing for? You know, the usual bio.
Yeah, I grew up just south of the Chittenden, Vermont line in Addison, and I went. Yeah, I guess my journey on the guitar really started when I took a piano class that taught me basic theory, and that was when the guitar became an interesting beast for me to wrestle with, because then I could come up with my own ideas. I'm not one for doing what other people tell me or what I've been told. I like to go off on my own, in a lot of different areas, and music being one of them, I guess. But yeah, and then pretty much since freshman year of high school, I've been plunking around on this thing. My dad let me borrow it for a while, and then he was like, "It's yours."
Oh, so this is actually your dad's guitar that you're playing.
Yeah, it was played at my parents' wedding. It was played to me and my brother when we were kids for helping us get to sleep. It's got some history to it.
Yeah, it really does. Did he inherit it from someone else, or was that OG with your dad?
I think he bought it when he was probably around my age or a little older.
Yeah.
But
so you obviously learned music when you were a kid, transitioned to guitar from piano. When did you start writing your own stuff though? When did this kind of genesis into becoming like a singer-songwriter happen?
I always like tried to write my own stuff because I wanted to be a rock star, and you can't be a rock star playing covers. You gotta write your own stuff. And then kind of similar with that learning of the basic music theory, that was when my songwriting actually started to happen. I think I wrote my first song that I still play to this day summer after sophomore year of high school. So it's been like 8-9 years.
It's funny, I've spoken to a lot of musicians that started, some of them incredibly young, when they were still tottering around at 4 or 5 years old. And I've honestly had a fair few of them mention that they still play like the first song that they've ever written. And I'm wondering, and I ask everyone the same question, how does it feel playing that song now? Now you're older, you obviously realize the lyrics are probably a little bit derivative because, you were a young teenager when you wrote it. But obviously songs take on deeper meanings as you get older. So how does that feel these days when you sit in front of an audience and play that first song you ever wrote?
Well, I mean, I've been on the earth longer. I don't know how much older I've gotten. But a lot of the lyrics it's So Raw is the one that and it's, a lot of the lyrics are vague enough that, or cryptic enough that they still apply even if it's in a different way. Mm-hmm. And I find that's true of a lot of my songs, where a song that was about one thing. As I get older and as my life changes and as all of a sudden this, at the time I wrote it, that one thing was the center of my universe and had to be dealt with. And then something else has taken the place of that. And so those same lyrics can be applied to what I'm going through in the here and now.
Is that original song, have you stuck true to it when you replay it, or have you kind of added bits or taken bits away as the years have gone on?
So the lyrics are all the same, except for I accidentally sang one wrong when I was recording. But other than that one word, the lyrics are all the same as when I originally wrote it. And the acoustic guitar part on it is the same as when I wrote it, or as close as I can remember. But I was playing it in rehearsal with my band one time, and he just had this idea. I struck a wrong chord. It's like a classic story. I struck an incorrect chord and paused because I realized it was wrong. And then he was like, wait, do that again. And then I did it again. And he started playing these awesome drum fills. And then that became a crucial part of the song. And then we added in a guitar solo in there. Just because it kind of called for more of a intense rock vibe.
Needed something a bit meatier.
Yeah.
You've got, and I will get onto your album in a minute, by the way. I do know you came out with your first debut album this year, but I'll pause on that one for the moment. I'm curious about when you found your style, because you've got this, it's kind of a little country, it's got a twang to it. You're from Vermont, so Yankee through and through. Yeah, was this kind of the style you've always gone for? I know there's a lot of connections, obviously, between being from rural Vermont and being in the South. A lot of similar kind of connections there. Or is this something that you came upon later in your kind of musical journey? You're like, oh, actually, no, this is what I'm gonna sound like.
I mean, my initial response to that is I love that you think it's a choice. Like, I don't know. I don't even feel like I've been having this conversation a lot lately where I feel like I'm more of a song recorder than a songwriter, because I can't just sit down and write a song. It has to. It's either coming to me. It's either being brought into my mind from the universe, or it's not. My only responsibility is to sit there with a guitar and a piece of paper on a regular basis and be ready for it, so that when it comes, I can actually catch it. And as far as the twang, I don't know. My uncle commented that I had a hint of a Southern accent, and I was like, cool, I guess. I've never even, I've been through the South on a couple road trips, but I've never lived down there. I have an affinity for a lot of culture that's come out of the South.
I was going to say, is that the sort of music you listen to? Is that where this is coming from? Did your parents play you this kind of music as a kid?
My favorite songwriter for my entire life has been James McMurtry. And he's from Texas. And my dad played him all the time when I was a kid. And still does. But when I was in high school, I really didn't like country music. I just had a distaste for it. And then I would ride on the Career Center bus every day, and they'd play it every day. And I started to like it a little more. And then the next summer I worked on a farm full time, and I just started liking it.
Stockholm syndrome situation going on, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You had to like it. It's either that or just not like music anymore, I guess.
No, I think it's just, I don't know, it appeals to that, if you spend all day on a tractor and throwing bales of hay and picking berries and driving trucks around, it's like, oh, well, I mean, some of it's a little, these days it gets a little bit pandery for my taste, but overall, there's a lot of stuff in there that I relate to, even though I, grew up in Vermont, where it's just a bunch of liberal hippies, right?
One thing I definitely didn't grow up on country music, not really a thing in the UK. Although apparently becoming more of a thing now, which I think says more about the UK than it does about country music. One thing I do love about it, though, is the ability to tell a story with turns of phrase. It's very smart in the way that it talks about complex things in simple ways. Is that something you've tried to adopt? Or again, is this just something that happens and you're not really aware of it, and all of a sudden you've got two sentences that are just wonderful and fantastic little quips and silver tongue?
Definitely the latter. Definitely the latter. And actually, the song I was thinking of playing next has some of my favorite ideas that have ever popped into my head lyrically. Yeah, just, I don't know. I can't really take a whole lot of responsibility for it, honestly.
You're just the vessel it moves through.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, let's hear what you've got.
Sure thing. I figured since my album is now out, I should probably play the title track at some point. This is Out of the Forest and Into the Trees. I'm just gonna restart that real quick. Tighten this up just a smidge. Sorry about that. Out of the forest and into the trees. Out of the forest and into the trees. There's no need to send somebody after me. I've come out of the forest, gone into the trees. Lost in the needles and lost in the leaves. I get lost in the needles and lost in the leaves. Somewhere between the needles and the leaves on the trees, and the bark and the branches and the roots, there I'll be. Where I'm going, I hope not to know. One thing I can tell you, and one thing's for sure: if I knew where I was going, I would not need to go. It ain't about a friend and it ain't about a girl. It ain't about nothing in this human world. Coming to terms, it's her teaching me what my soul needs to learn.
Kuhns there with Out of the Forest and Into the Trees, title track from his new album. So tell me a little bit about that album. So what was the impetus about finally kind of getting into the studio and getting an album together for a start?
Well, I mean, I've been having my friends harass me about it for years, since I started playing my songs, and I really, I don't know. I just had this like, I had this thing where I was like, I can't just release like a single or an EP. I want to release a full album. It's got to have at least 12 songs on it.
12. No more, no less.
No less. I would have been okay with 13 or 14, but I was like 12 is a great number. I feel like that's like when I buy a CD, I want to get 12 songs. I want to get, 45, 50 minutes of music, cuz that's, I don't know, that's what I like. My favorite albums ever have more than that. So once I finally had 12 songs that I felt like were worth recording and putting on an album, that was kind of, and also I was kind of busy with college. So once I graduated college and had some time, that was kind of when it all came together. It was because I can rarely get more than one thing done at a time.
Was it difficult to pick out those 12? When you said 12 that were good enough to be on an album, was there any kind of on the fence? Was there any that like, oh, I could have made that the 13th, or oh, maybe that shouldn't have been number 11?
Yes to both. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely, my least popular song is the one that I was the most like, I don't know if I should put this on the album, but I did, and that's okay. Not everybody has to like it. That's what they got the skip button for.
I was going to say, a lot of people, first album, they very much run into the wall of perfectionism. In that, because it's your first baby,
Yeah.
it's like that first initial, like, putting something out into the world that's tangible. It's not just like a gig or whatnot, not trying to downplay like live music, but it is something, it's real and it's recorded and it's on the record, literally.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people who we've spoken to, they do find that they spend 6 months, a year, more than a year, trying to like tweaking every little last part. It doesn't sound like that was an issue for you. So was it kind of like, get one track down, done, we're fine, let's move on to the next, boom, 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 12 songs later?
It was in between those two, I would say. I felt like I'd been playing almost all of the songs for so long where getting them recorded wasn't that bad, except for the intros. I had such a hard time recording the intro for Maine took so long, and I'm not a full disclosure, it is spliced on the album between a couple different takes. I like in like the little instrumental parts that I do because I don't practice them enough, if I'm being totally honest. But I knew all the songs. I had a pretty good idea of the structure. We changed a couple of them a little bit to make them make more sense musically. But the recording process, I feel like I didn't have too much of an issue with perfectionism during that. But then in listening to the recordings and trying to pick different takes and trying to get the right sound, I know I fell into some pretty serious perfectionism, and I apologize to Robot Dogs, to Ryan at Robot Dog Studios for that. But
I'm sure he's very much used to it.
I imagine so. But overall, I'm really happy with the sound he came up with and that we landed on. I think it's a really awesome. I had one of my friends say that they listened to it and they're like, "Yeah, I was listening to it and it's like, oh, there's not a whole lot of like stuff on top of this. It's kind of just this, it's just like the instruments." And then I listened some more and I was like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. That's what it is. And that's exactly that was exactly what I was going for. I just wanted just the basic sound, clean, crisp.
Yeah.
And
it's obviously just yourself here tonight doing an acoustic set. So obviously different from what the album is, which is like a full band. Which do you feel like is, because as you said, the album itself is pretty simple. I mean, you have got the band. But yeah, which is more what you feel your music is? Is it having those drums and backups, or is it sitting here on a stool with an acoustic? Your dad's acoustic, no less.
I feel like statistically it's the latter, but in my heart, it's kind of hard to pick. I mean, I like doing things on my own, and because then I don't have to keep a consistent tempo and nobody yells at me. um, but I love the challenge of being in a band, and like the listening aspect of trying to make sure you're not just off in your own world, because that's where I spend most of my life. So it's a good challenge for me to loop back in and be in touch with the other people that I'm playing with, and there's nothing like having ideas in your head and bringing them to somebody and then having them like take them and make them better and add them on to the ideas that you brought, and then it's a magical thing. With that said, I actually just texted the two guys that I've been playing with lately that I need a bit of a break from it. Just life-wise, I got a little too much on my plate right now and got to sort some things out.
And so is this you going back into like being solo, or is this you taking a break full stop from music for a little while?
Well, I don't think I'll stop playing music in my bedroom.
Right.
And I'll probably hit a couple open mics here and there.
Yeah.
But mostly just a break from the, like planning rehearsals and trying to, add that into my day. And I just need a couple. I don't know exactly how long it's going to be, but I need a little bit of time to figure some things out before I think I'm going to be ready to jump back into that.
Does this kind of state of mind stifle your creativity to write as well, or is it that some people have the opposite, where then when they're feeling a bit overwhelmed with everything else, it's actually their most prolific period because it helps them out at the end of the day? Maybe not the rehearsals and they're trying to plan things and they're going to shows and whatnot, but just sitting in your room playing guitar, often it can be a really good head cleanser.
I mean, it's a nice way to end an evening for sure. In terms of how many songs I'm writing in a year, I have no changes. The one time where I wrote a bunch of songs in a short period of time, I was working at a camp where I didn't have Wi-Fi in my cabin, so I couldn't listen to music. So I just would make my own. And there was a couple other things that sort of coalesced to make that time really ideal for songwriting. That was when I wrote like Maine and Carolina Coast and a couple others. I can't remember which ones, but
your music does center a lot around environment, which seems obvious when I say it, but do you have to be in that setting to write? Is that where you feel at home to write these kind of things, or is that doesn't really matter? You can be middle of the city and probably write the same sort of stuff.
Well, I mean, I don't think I would write the same music if I grew up in a different place, because again, like I don't feel like I have a whole lot of control over what I write, which kind of tells me that it's just like my environment and my life turning into music, if that makes sense. Like, so yeah, I doubt my uncle would have commented that I have a slight southern twang on any of my songs if I grew up in the Big Apple or something.
Well, true. Nashville, on the other hand, maybe still. Well, we'd like to hear another song, so what have you got?
I thought it would be fun, because this is well, it's kind of like, this is my Kettle Joe. I really wanted to learn how to play the banjo, and so, like any sane person, I built one. I did not build the tea kettle. This is a tea kettle that it sprung a leak. You can see right here on the spout, it sprung a leak, and it was like it's like a folded seam, and it was filled with corrosion. And my dad just kept trying to fix it, and it kept blowing through, and so it'd been sitting in the shop for a little while. And I was home from college on winter break, and I was looking for something to build a banjo out of, because I knew I didn't have time to like build a whole resonator head. That's just like a lot of stuff that and probably would have really been pushing my skill set. But I figured I could probably slap together a neck, because it's kind of just like a few boards glued together and straightened very meticulously. So for Christmas, I asked for tuning pegs and fret wire, and I ended up getting the bridge piece and the tail piece as part of that. And then I was walking around the shop and I saw it and I just thought, that kind of looks like a drum. I wonder. And I was like, Dad, can I make it out of this? And he thought about it for a second because, I think he still had hopes of fixing it. And then he was like, you know what? I'm not going to fix that thing. Go ahead, knock yourself out. And so, yeah, and then I came up with, it was a really cool moment to pull strings across it for the first time because I had no clue what it was going to sound like. Like, this was the only clue I had. I was like, that sounds like a drum. Banjos have drums on them, therefore it must sound something like a banjo. And the sound that I ended up making was something like that. Yeah. And I really like it. It's a little quieter, but that's what we got pickups for, right? So this is a song. This is a song I wrote called, and I call it Horse Chase because I wrote it just sort of, messing around with tunings and whatnot. And to me, it, like, when I hear it, I picture like this, this kind of Western movie scene where there's this dude on a horse and he's just like, like racing through the desert and there's mountains in the distance and he's got to make it to those mountains because there's, I don't know, like dynamite strapped to a baby or something. And he's got to defuse the bomb or something. And there's like evil guys chasing him from behind. Anyways, there's like evil guys chasing him from behind. You can see them on the horizon behind him and they're making a cloud of dust. And he's like just absolutely hauling. And yeah, that's just kind of the imagery that I think of whenever I play this one. So. All right.
Just making it sound as good as it possibly can.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, Sam Kuhns there with Horse Chase. On your beautiful kettle, Joe. That is such an unusual instrument. I saw that on the bio pitch of you that supplied for us. And one of my questions was to ask you specifically about that. Mostly like what's it called and where did you get it from? You've actually answered all of those questions already, but is this something that you'd done before? Have you made guitars or other instruments, or is this your first crack at something like this?
This is my first crack at instruments. I have a buddy who's given me some cigar box guitars that he's made. One of my mom's exes is a luthier, so I asked him for some advice. My dad's a woodworker. I've picked up a lot from him. And I just, I don't know. Just sort of looked around the shop for chunks of wood that I could use. I was like, hey, Dad, can I use this? And he was like, yeah, sure. And it's kind of funny. There's more of a story to it. So I talked about, my family has a cabin in Maine. This lived on the stove there for like probably, I don't know, several decades. Probably, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how long it's been there, but I know that my grandfather made this handle out of cherry probably before I was born. And
so
then
you're playing your dad's acoustic and your granddad's kettle.
yeah, I suppose I am. Yeah, so and like the fretboard was
And that's gorgeous, by the way. And obviously, if you're just listening, you can't see the details of this incredible guitar. Kettle Joe, to get the terminology right. But there's a beautiful vein that goes all the way down the neck, and up into the head. And yeah, it's beautiful what you've done with the neck there.
Yeah, so this is another one of those times when it's like the idea kind of presented itself. Some of the, as I was looking through the shop for pieces of wood, I came across these 2 pieces of black walnut. They were offcuts from a project that my dad had done that was for my grandparents on my mom's side 65th wedding anniversary. And that's the grandfather who built the handle. These were the offcuts from this like curved part of the mirror, of the frame for the mirror. And I just thought, oh man, I could run a strip of maple down the middle of that and that would look really cool. And so that's what I ended up doing. Originally it was more than twice as thick as it is now, the fretboard, when I clamped it together. And I cut it in half and gave the other half to the friend who I just mentioned, who like builds cigar box guitars and stuff. And he built a banjo out of that. So now we have twin banjos that have the same fretboard. His is, I think he put his upside down though. Like it's the other orientation. So instead of a swoop up, it's a swoop down. But
have you guys done a banjo duel yet on the brothers?
We have not. We used to play a lot together. We kind of haven't in a while. I fell off it, but my favorite thing to do with him was take one of his cigar box guitars and I'd play around on that with a slide and he'd play harmonica and he could, it was awesome. It was very fun. And I don't know. It makes me think I should plan that into my schedule at some point.
Yeah, send him a text. Bring him in. We'd love to hear it. Have you got any plans to make any more instruments? Is this kind of maybe open up a new avenue for you?
Definitely. I'm hoping to make a mandolin next. And I've yet to carve out the time.
Hey.
I'm sorry.
It's someone on the drums.
That's my next project. My dad found a really massive it was like a foot in diameter buckthorn tree, but usually buckthorn doesn't get that big. And so I cut it down and milled it up, and it's been dry for a couple of years now, I think. And I just haven't I even planed it and started the process, but I haven't been able to get my act together and make time for it and make a plan, because for that I would be building the resonator and everything, which just takes a little bit more. Like for this, I was able to just put this bridge piece on here, put the strings on, and then tune it and slide the bridge piece back and forth. And once it was where I liked it, I just super glued it on.
I see.
So like that gave me some leeway in terms of the build. Like for the mandolin, I'm gonna have to place it exactly right to the thousandth of an inch.
Right.
And so yeah, I think I'm a little intimidated by that, but if I'm being honest, I'm like scared to start because I only have enough pieces of wood from this tree.
Right.
I only get one shot at it. If I mess anything up, it's done.
Right.
I'm sure I'll find some way to incorporate it if I do, but
always just turn it into something else if it messes up.
Just try and make it look like it wasn't a mistake.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing with most of my life.
Well, we're going to turn it back to music just before I let you go or let you play your last song out. But I know you're kind of, as we're getting into the winter, you are kind of taking your foot off the accelerator a little bit, but Are you going to be playing any final shows or any last things before you kind of like say put things on pause for a minute, or is this we being blessed with the last Sam Kuhns show for a while?
This is the last you'll ever hear of me. No, I this probably is going to be the last for a while. Yeah, I'm pretty busy with some other stuff, and I just like being a person is a challenge. And I'm trying to figure that challenge out right now.
Yeah.
And I think I need to take some time to figure that challenge out. Because if I can't be a person, then I can't write songs, you know?
Amen to that. And best of luck on that front. It's certainly something not everyone realizes they need to do. So it's good to have that self-awareness. Well, we've got one more song. So what's going to be the last song for maybe 2023 for Sam Kuhns?
This is a song that came to me last April. Sorry, I've got to tune it to open D, so it's kind of a process. But I had a pretty life-altering experience that changed my perspective on a lot of different things, and made me realize that I had to change my perspective on a lot of different things. And I was sitting down in my bedroom in my apartment, looking out the window, and I have this crabapple tree outside my window, and there were these little gray birds that were sitting on the branches and eating the crab apples that were still left on the branches from the year before. And this fire engine drove by with all its lights and sirens on, and like half the birds freaked out and flew away, and the other half stayed put like nothing had happened. And I just was like, those are the birds of the future. Those are the the birds that are not they're not scared off by the massive change. Like birds for most of their evolution have not had to deal with fire trucks. People for most of their evolution have not had to deal with fire trucks. Mm-hmm. That made me think about, I don't know, for whatever reason that caused this song to come into my path. So this is Birds of the Future. Searching for deeper than they could. Don't take much to tip me. Don't take much for me to spill. I don't appear to be well balanced. It don't appear I will. Looking out my bedroom window, watching the cars roll by. Little gray birds eat crab apples, and I wish that I could fly. Hanging on a tree, knowing that it will hold. They go about their business, and I prepare my hand to fold. Clouds above are lifting, the sun is shining down. I'm lost and drifting, I do not wish to be found. Birds of the future, birds of the past, some will be here forever, some were never meant to
All right, Sam Kuhns playing us out there with Birds of the Future. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, no worries. And whenever you are back up and running, tell us and we'll get you in again. Well, that's all we got for tonight. Don't join me next week, but join my co-host Abby, where she'll be interviewing Lillian Ledbetter. She'll be filling in for me. Thanks very much, Abby. But for now, this has been WOMM-LP operating out of Burlington, Vermont, 105.9 The Radiator. It's been The Rocket Shop. I've been your host, Tom Proctor, and good night.
This is awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I'm glad you came in, dude.